Dimsar Sali, Representative Caroline Tanchay, Representative Jocelyn Tulfo, Representative Patrick Michael Vargas, Representative Samuel Bersosa Jr., Representative Edward Vera Perez Maceda, Representative Salvador Pleito. Other members of the House of Representatives, Representative Robert Ace Barbers, Representative Richard Gomez, Representative Isidro Lumayag, Representative Peter Miguel, Representative Jose Gay Pajernos, Representative Muhammad Paglas, Representative Brian Revilla, Representative Florida Rida Robes, Representative Rufus Rodriguez, Representative Laarni Lavin Roque, Representative Edgar Salvame, Representative Steve Chongbian Solon, Representative Lord Suan, Representative Lodi Odi Tariela, Representative Ana Victoria Veloso Tuason, Representative Amparo Maria Zamora, Representative Ral Tulfo, and at the session hall, Representative Ramon Vico. May we now acknowledge the officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways, Secretary Manuel Bonoan, Senior Undersecretary Emil Sadain, Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral, Undersecretary Ardelisa Medinilla, Undersecretary Maximo Carvajal, Undersecretary Eugenio Pipo Jr., Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo, Undersecretary Carlos Muto, Undersecretary Ann Sharilyn Lapus, Assistant Secretary Antonio Molano Jr., Assistant Secretary Marichu Palafox, Assistant Secretary Ador Canlas, Assistant Secretary Eric Ayapana, and Assistant Secretary Constante Llanes. May also acknowledge the Head of the Local Water Utilities Administration via Zoom, OIC Eileen De La Vega. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Leader Manix Dalipe, Senior Vice Chair Stella Kimbo, and our lead sponsor Ronald Singson, Vice Chairs, esteemed colleagues, Secretary Manuel Bunuan, Undersecretaries, Assistant Secretaries, and distinguished guests from the Department of Public Works and Highways. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the budget briefing of the DPWH this 16th day of September 2022. President Marcos aspires to expand the Build More program and sustain it at 5 to 6% of the GDP. The committee welcomes and supports the President's aspirations. Indeed, infrastructure is the backbone of a society's economy. But infrastructures must also keep up with modern society. It must be driven to take advantage of innovations, allowing the completion of public works in weeks or even days. It must be climate and disaster resilient to adapt and prepare for the rapid changes in our planet. And it must be responsive to the country's ever-growing population and its ever-increasing demand for efficient delivery of public services, including energy, water, and public transportation. These are among the challenges facing the department, and it requires full support from all sectors. This is the basis of the committee's support for the 718.36 billion proposed budget of the DPWH for 2023 to enable the country to meet and surpass these challenges. With that, we now open the DPWH budget deliberations. Thank you. Vice Chair Stella Kimbo.
Mr. Chair, ikinararangal kong ipakilala ang sponsors ng DPWH budget. By tradition, the lead sponsor is Appropriations Chairman Ellis Aldico. Co-sponsors are Representative Ronald V. Singson, 1st District of Ilocos Sur, Representative Romeo Momo of the 1st District, Surigao del Sur, Representative David J. Suarez, 2nd District of Quezon Province, Jose Alvarez of Palawan, 2nd District, Representative Luisa Lloren Quaresma of the Lone District of Nueva Vizcaya, Representative Joseph Jojo Lara of the 3rd District of Cagayan, Representative Eric Martinez of the 2nd District of Valenzuela City, Representative Francisco Jose Bingo Matugas, the 2nd of the 1st District, Surigao del Norte. So sila po ang mag-a-assist at magpa-facilitate ng inyong speedy deliberation para sa plenary debates. And at this point, Mr. Chair, allow me to give some opening remarks. Muli, isang magandang umaga po sa atin lahat. Today is the last day of budget briefings at the committee level. Next week, we begin plenary debates. And the Dpwh budget, although last to be taken up, is certainly not the least in terms of magnitude and contribution to economic growth. An IMF study indicates that improved investment in public infrastructure will directly contribute an additional 5 to 6% in GDP over the next 15 years. Ang infrastructure projects ay nakakapagbigay ng trabaho, income at oportunidad sa mga Pilipino. When completed, these projects allow for an efficient and smooth flow of products and services. According to NEDA, the multiplier effect of infrastructure projects is about 2.27. Ang ibig sabihin po nito, for every 1 peso spent on infrastructure, 2.27 pesos is contributed to total GDP. And its large multiplier effect is the reason why infrastructure development has long been a core policy of various administrations. NEDA further estimates that public infrastructure spending from 2017 onwards will contribute nearly 1.3 trillion pesos to the economy, or 4.9% of GDP by 2022. The current administration pledges to build on the gains from the previous years by implementing firmly funded Build programs and refocusing others to strengthen industry linkages as well as physical and digital connectivity. Kaya't mananatiling mahalaga ang papel na gagampanan ng DPWH. It is mandated to plan and implement public works such as roads, bridges, flood control, and water resource projects. These projects will not only directly create jobs, they will also enhance connectivity, which reduces the cost of doing business and creates economic opportunities. Napakarami pa pong nakaplanong gawain ng DPWH. Today, we shall discuss their overall budget amounting to 718.3 billion pesos, which makes up 13.6% of the entire 2023 budget. We all look forward to a productive meeting. Kung kinakailangan po natin umabot hanggang hating gabi, kaming lahat po dito ay handa po na pakinggan at talakayin ang DPWH budget. Maraming salamat po. And at this point, Mr. Chair, let me recognize Vice Chair Ronald Singson for his sponsorship remarks.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, today we resume the hearings on the proposed budget of the national government for fiscal year 2023, starting with the DPWH. I am honored to have been made lead sponsor for the DPWH budget here at the lower house. We will listen, scrutinize, and review the proposed budget. Recognizing the vital role of infrastructure in economic growth, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. vowed to expand the flagship infrastructure program of the Duterte administration, and now Build Better More. The President intends to do this by embarking on new infrastructure projects while continuing key programs that have started under the previous administration. Moreover, the President has also instructed the DPWH to continue the prioritization of infrastructure that would aid in the food security program of the government amid the rising inflation. Other priorities are interconnectivity of regions and convergence programs with other agencies. I laud the Marcos administration for this commitment, but to be able to fully realize this, adequate funding is needed. The budget proposal for fiscal year 2023 of DPWH, which amounts to around 718 billion, forms part of the Marcos administration's first full-year budget. This is crucial in the meeting of our economic growth targets in the coming years. Having said that, Mr. Chair, I look forward to a fruitful and productive meeting today. And so, Mr. Chair, I give the floor to Dpwh Secretary Manuel Bonoan for the presentation of their proposed budget. Thank you very much.
Secretary Manny Buran, you may proceed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and the honorable distinguished members of the House of Representatives. First of all, I would like to say that it's an honor and privilege for the Department of Public Works and Highways to present to this august body the proposed budget of the department for calendar year 2023. I prepared an opening remarks, but all the items that I wanted to say has already been mentioned by the distinguished co-sponsors of the budget. So, in the terms of time, I think we will just continue to present the budget of the department, if you wish, Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
Mr. Chairman, let me just start to repeat that the core functions of the Department of Public Works and Highways functions as the engineering and construction arm of the government, tasked to continuously develop its technology for the purpose of ensuring the safety of all infrastructure facilities and securing for all public works and highways the highest efficiency and quality in construction. The Department of Public Works and Highways, next slide please. The Department of Public Works and Highways is currently responsible for the planning, design, construction and maintenance of infrastructure, especially national highways, flood control and water resources development system, and other public works in accordance with national development objectives. Next slide, please. Let me just briefly present, actually, since this is one of the major responsibilities of the department, let me just briefly present to the august body the condition of Philippine road network, particularly on the national roads. We, as of October 2021, the total inventory of our national roads all over the country totals to about 34,551. This is made up of the primary, secondary, and tertiary roads. To cut short, Mr. Chairman, out of the 34,251 kilometers of national roads, 33,769 kilometers have been paved, or this represents about 98.67% of the total network. The bridges, for the bridges along the national roads, we have a total of 8,546. That's equivalent to 388,057 lineal meters. Out of these bridges, 8,520 are already permanent bridges, representing about 99.7%, Mr. Chairman. For the local roads, for the information of the body, the inventory of local roads totals to about 177,595. This consists of provincial, municipal, city, and barangay roads. I would like to highlight that the barangay roads total to about 116,765. And as far as the conditions of the roads, of the total local roads, 177,595, 33,479, or 18%, 18.85% are paved roads. Now let me just briefly go through the Dpwh strategic program for our infrastructure development, Mr. Chairman. Our the DPWH Strategic Infrastructure Program is hinged by the Build Better More program of this administration that will address traffic congestion, integrated and seamless transport system, livable, sustainable, resilient communities, and convergence and rural road development program. Under the traffic congestion program, we intend actually to implement what we call a high standard highway projects that will expand the national roads and the construction of expressways, bypasses, diversion roads, flyovers, interchanges, underpasses. Under the integrated and seamless transport system, the roads that will be leading to the corridors in the Mindanao area, inter-island linkage, mega bridge program, and we will have the program to connect gaps along the national roads and construction of new bridges. Under livable and sustainable resilient communities, we will continue to implement our flood control program, integrated water resources management program, disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation program, infrastructure support for marginalized sectors, women and elderly, physically challenged, including the construction of build bike lanes, facilities, and pedestrian infrastructure for active transport. For the convergence and rural road development program, we will continue to construct and upgrade access roads to designated tourism destinations, industrial trade corridors, roll-on, roll-off ports, seaports, railway station, and airports. We will also continue to construct the farm-to-market and farm-to-mill roads under the Department of Agriculture Support Program. And of course, the department has also been tasked to continue for the construction of classrooms under the basic education facilities funded by the Department of Education. Next slide, please. Here in the next slide, Mr. Chairman, we are just trying to show how the budget of the department trends over several years. It will be noted, Mr. Chairman, that 2019, 2020, to 2021, the budget started to increase from a low of 454.79 billion pesos in 2019, gradually increasing in 2022 to 786.6 billion pesos, or 13% increase over the 2021 budget of 695.670 billion. In 2023, Mr. Chairman, the National Expenditure Program level that has been given to the Department of Public Works and Highways is 718.36 billion pesos. Well, this is 9%, a little bit 9% lower than the total budget allocation in 2022, Mr. Chairman. Next slide, please. Mr. Chairman, again, we're presenting to you the trend of our capital outlay program. And these are, when we say capital outlay, these are the budget that goes through the projects of the various projects of the Department of Public Works and Highways. Again, the lowest in the last 4 years in 2019. In 2019, as I said, the capital program in 2019 totals to 428.6 billion pesos, and it was gradually increasing again. And in 2022, the capital program of the Department of Public Works and Highways is totals to about 769.67 billion pesos. That is, excuse me. That is made up of for the highways sector, The allocation in 2022 is about 300.2 billion pesos. For flood control, it is 128.97 billion pesos. And for other infrastructures, totals to about 340.51 billion pesos. Under the proposed 2023 CY 2023 budget, Mr. Chairman, the total capital expenditure has been allocated 675.38 billion pesos. That is made up of, for highways, 288.61 billion pesos, flood control, 168.9 billion pesos, and for other infrastructure, 217.87 billion pesos. That is for the National Expenditure Program. Mr. Chairman, I think this is our last slide for the time being, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Salamat, Secretary Bonoan. At this point, we open the floor to questions. Just a few reminders to our members. You have 5 minutes for your questions. And to our DPWH officials, these 5 minutes will not include your responses. So, in the interest of time, you are highly encouraged to answer directly, completely, yet concisely. And we also have a long-standing tradition in the House where we accord preferential treatment to our minority members, and they will be followed by our majority members in an alternating manner. So at this point, the Chair recognizes from the minority for his interpellation, Senior Deputy Minority Leader Paul Ruiz Daza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Speaker Martin Romualdez, Majority Leader Manix Dalipe, Chairman Sadico, and our Vice Chair of the Committee on Appropriations, my colleagues, Secretary Manny Bunoan, and the other officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways, and other visitors. Maayong buntag, maupay-ngaga sa iyong atanan. In behalf of the Minority Leader, Congressman Nonoy Libanan, we would like to welcome you, Secretary, to the House of Representatives. We sincerely believe that the President made a very good choice in his appointment for this department.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We know that there are many problems facing the department, our country, and we are here all today to make sure that the budget of the department will be reviewed, examined, and scrutinized with the end view of having a better budget for 2023 for the country. Allow me to share a good saying, and it goes, a good roadmap will get you to your destination. And I think that's our guide for today. We want to create a better roadmap which will bring us to our destination, which is nation building. What we want, Madam Chair, the good Secretary, I think all of us, our vision and aim is for an equitable distribution of resources so that all provinces receive their fair share of infrastructure development. We all believe in urban and countryside development. Together, we will come up with a better budget for the department, and I thank the officials for their time today. And in that light, I'd like to welcome you again, and thank you for the preferential priority for the minority, Madam Chair. Just as an administrative matter, Madam Chair, this representation has requested through letters and in the pre-budget hearing certain reports and documentation, which we would like to remind the department to submit hopefully this week before the plenary debate, Madam Chair.
Secretary Bonoan, kindly take note of the request of the gentleman from Northern Samar.
Noted, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you. We will comply.
Do you wish to respond?
That's all, Madam Chair. In the interest of time, I will now yield to the next interpreter.
Thank you, Rep. Dasha. The chair now recognizes from the majority, Deputy Majority Leader Jam Baronda.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, to esteemed colleagues, Secretary Manuel Bunoan, and the men and women of the Dpwh. Mr. Chair, the Department of Public Works and Highways has a good record of utilization of the budget allotted for them. For 2019, they utilized 85.3% of their budget. For 2020, 91.8%, while for 2021, 88.3%. May we know for the record what is the current budget obligation rate of the department?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, let me start with the fiscal year 2021. 2021, our allotment for capital outlays is 681.5 billion, and our obligations stands at 642.8 billion, or 94%. However, actually, the disbursement rate of the capital outlay at this point in time is 395.7 billion pesos, or 58%. For fiscal year 2022, Mr. Chairman, the total allotment of 812.4 billion. The total obligation as of this time, Mr. Chairman, is 732.1 billion pesos, or 90% obligations. Now, the disbursement rate at this time, Mr. Chairman, amounts to 296.6 billion pesos, or 37% of the allotment of 812.4 billion pesos, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Madam Chair, considering that your current obligation is lower than your average budget utilization, are you confident that at the end of the year, you'll be able to utilize 100% budget before the year ends?
Mr. Chairman, I have looked into the historical trend of the department in their absorptive capacity over the years. And while it's true that the disbursement rate at this point in time seems to be a little low, I think there has been, I am confident that we will be able to maintain the same absorptive capacity of 90% by the end of the year, Mr. Chairman. We have had several payables that we are now requesting the Department of Budget and Management for the release of cash obligations at this point in time, Mr. Chairman, and we are just awaiting our payables that we will increase our absorbing capacity in 2022, Mr. Chairman.
Tinatanong ko to, Madam Chair, kasi 10% ng 700 plus, 70 billion pa rin. And if you will not be able to obligate your budget allocation, how much is your expected unused appropriation for this year?
As I mentioned, Mr. Chairman, for 2022, as of now, our obligations have already reached 90%, and we still have a few more months actually to obligate many of the projects. Mr. Chairman, I said that will be only about 80 billion. So we are confident that we should be able to, well, honestly, it may not be 100%, but we will be able to obligate almost 95 substantially the entire budget allocation for 2022, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. We look forward, Mr. Secretary, na maabot natin kung pwede lang 98% kasi sayang pa rin yung 80 billion na hindi nagagastos. Mr. Chair, yun nga sinasabi ko, nasasayangan ako sa pondo para sa infrastruktura na kailangan gastusin ng departamento. And I understand, nung time ng pandemic, pwede natin maintindihan yon. When it comes to ranking kasi sa competitiveness sa buong mundo, we rank number 57 out of 63 countries. Naunahan pa tayo ng Indonesia, rank 52, and Malaysia 37. So ano kayang gagawin mo? Dapat mong gagawin ang pwede mong gawin na ma-improve man lang kahit nagawin natin 98%. Kasi Mr. Secretary, nasasayangan ako nung 2019, merong 83 billion unused appropriation ang Dpwh. Noong 2020, 83 billion. Yung 2021 naman, 87.6 billion. So sayang po, sana natapos na yung Comprehensive Development Plan for sa Iloilo na 6 billion para doon sa flooding, pag-address ng flooding. Mr. Chair, I would like to know how the department used their quick response fund. Saan po nila ginagamit ito at saan ba dapat gamitin? May report kasi na nagsasabi sa 1.8 billion under Bayanihan 2 na tanggap ng Dpwh, 20% lang ang kanilang disbursement rate. At ang quick response fund nila noong 2021, amounting to 1.4 billion pesos, hindi naman nila nagagamit. Ano po kaya nangyari sa quick response fund ninyo?
Mr. Secretary.
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, under the under RA 11494 Bayanihan to recover as one, Bayanihan 2. I had been given here a report that this consists of about 463 projects, and totaling about 7 billion, more or less. And as of June 30, 2022, Mr. Chairman, I think the disbursements and obligations amounting is already 99.06%, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Chair, kasi although the funding for replenishment of Quick Response Fund under GAA 2020 amounting to 2.6 billion, may disburse rate po kayo na 71%. Second replenishment of QRF under Bayanihan 2 amounting to 1.8 billion has disbursed rate merely of 20%. Whereas the QRF fund amounting to 1.4 billion under GAA 2021 has remained unobligated and undisbursed even at the height of COVID-19. So, Madam Chair?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. As of August 31, 2022, the Quick Response Fund that the department has received, totals to about 5.5 billion pesos, Mr. Chairman. And the total obligations that we have already incurred under this budget, under this allocation, is 5,498.7%. So we only have a balance of 1.3 billion pesos, Mr. Chairman. So the disbursement actually runs to about 4,274.1 million pesos as of August 31, 2022, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor.
Madam Chair, gusto ko lang i-stress dito, may pera pa rin, sayang pa rin, kailangan natin spend. Mr. Secretary, there was a feasibility study in 2017 conducted regarding Iloilo City Comprehensive Drainage Plan that is totaling to 6.2 billion. Ang alam ko, in the 4 years time, mga nasa 500 million pa lang. I even visited the USEC Silain kasi concern talaga namin. Hindi lang during time ng typhoon, during time ng flooding. Kahit na wala kasing typhoon, pag tumaas ang high tide, underwater na yung several areas sa Iloilo City. So I would just like ask for the assistance of the good secretary na sana matulungan niya kami about sa problema natin and na ma-address din yung madagdagan din ng pondo para sa comprehensive drainage plan ng Iloilo City.
Thank you, thank you for bringing that out, Your Honor. And I was informed by our senior undersecretary that the additional program for the Iloilo Master Plan program will be attended to, Madam.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Secretary. I would just like to thank Department of Public Works and Highways for the completion of the project of Hibao-an flyover, which is now 85% sa Maduriao. Buhang flyover, which is 81% completed. I believe there's no doubt kung tutulungan nyo lang po kami. Iloilo City is the economic hub of Western Visayas kasi. So again, salamat po, Mr. Secretary. Ito si Jojo, ang sabihin niya, isama ko daw siya. Sige po, tulungan nyo kami. Salamat po. God bless.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Salamat, Rep. Baronda. Before we proceed, we wish to acknowledge the presence of Senior Deputy Speaker and former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. To our members who are physically present today, meron pong message sa atin ang ating technical staff. Ang ating microphone po dito ay bago at napaka-high-tech. The best way to use the mic is to speak at least 5 or 6 inches away from it. So kung dati nasanay tayo na kailangan lumapit, ngayon po medyo lumayo ng konti, 5 to 6 inches, and this will avoid sound distortion. Anyway, the chair failed to recognize our independent minority after the minority. Meron po tayong tradition dito, and of course, we accord the same preferential treatment to our independent minority. So, with apologies, the chair recognizes Representative Ed Salagman.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Mr. Chairman, there was no harm done. Madam Presiding Officer, by tradition, through the years, I have been supportive of the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways. And I find no compelling reason to depart from that tradition. With the Dpwh under the able stewardship of Secretary Manny Bunuan. I believe in the truism that infrastructure development is one of the prime engines for growth. Consequently, I have no questions, and I would defer to the more than 40 colleagues who have listed and who are raring to express their special concerns. But I have two caveats, Mr. Secretary, Madam Presiding Officer. One is that I hope the department will not implement the devolution plan pursuant to EO 138, which emasculated the incremental revenue granted by the Supreme Court to the local government units by ordering the local government units to fund local projects which were previously funded by the national government. For that purpose, Madam Presiding Officer, may I request the department to submit their devolution transition plan. Number two, caveat. This has not happened to me, and I will underscore that I have no experience about this. But many members of the House are complaining that their incessant calls have not been responded by the officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways. With that, Mr. Chairman, Madam Presiding Officer, I end my short intervention.
Salamat, Rep. Lagman. Mr. Secretary, do you wish to respond?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may share actually one of the policies that is being evolved in under the dispensation of the President. In one of our cabinet meetings, he is very concerned about as well the implementation of Executive Order 138. And actually, he has tasked a group in the cabinet to study actually the impact of Executive Order 138 and as far as local infrastructure is concerned. He is very concerned particularly for class 4, 5, 6 municipalities who he said there is no way that these municipalities will be able to absorb all the local infrastructure. So, Mr. Chairman, the President has tasked a group actually to make a study and delineate what could be absorbed by local governments and vis-a-vis the national government. In the meantime, Mr. Chairman, the President has actually instructed us in the Cabinet actually to continue in implementing local priorities under the Convergence Program, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Secretary, would you care to respond to Rep. Lagman's second point on the lack of responsiveness?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, under my watch, I'll make sure that the responsiveness of the department will be there at all times, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We appreciate that commitment, sir. Next to interpolate from the majority, we have Representative Wawa Fortes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Dpwh family, good morning. At the onset, I would like to state that Dpwh, among the national government agencies, is closest to the hearts of the House members. This is evidenced by the fact that among the NGAs, only Dpwh has offices in practically all the districts. Yung ibang NGAs, ang opisina po ay regional offices, if at most, provincial offices. Pero ang DPWH, bawat distrito, meron po. And this gives us the idea that House members, in the exercise of their oversight functions, are involved in the planning and eventually in the implementation of the projects. Kung kaya nga po, ang lahat ng mga district engineers, before the end of the year, the budget call, they submit a list of proposed projects, which is usually consulted with the House members. I just would like to be enlightened, Madam Chair, on how the NEP is extracted from this list of projects. Kasi po, ang mahaba po ang listahan ng proposed projects, then suddenly lalabas sa NEP. Minsan, may mga priorities po na sana identified ng House members na nawawala sa NEP. And if I may be enlightened further on what is the imaginary ceiling of the NEP for its district. Kasi minsan umaasa ang House member ganito and then ganito lang nakukuha. Sometimes inaasahan ganito lang pero mas madami nakukuha. So probably we can be enlightened on the policy standards on how these things are being performed by the department.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, the budgetary process actually starts way back when there is a budget call, I think sometime in March or April, by the Department of Budget and Management, we start with getting unconstrained proposals from our district and regional offices on the basis of the priorities laid down on our core program in the Department of Public Works and Highways. And this would be, the priorities would include actually the national roads, rehabilitation, improvement of national roads, flood control projects comes also in the second, and then the convergence of projects. So this is a unconstrained list of projects that may be presented actually in the initial consultation, Your Honor. Now, here, we ask the district regional offices to come up with the priorities, with the prioritization. Particularly on, as I said, national roads, flood control, and well, of course, convergence is something a little bit flexible. And then, after that, the Department of Budget and Management, whenever they give us an indicative ceiling of the National Expenditure Program, we start to prioritize and list down in accordance with the levels of allocation for its legislative district. We, of course, Mr. Chairman, we initially put our priorities on the core functions of the department. But having said that anyway, under that level, without yet these are indicative figures for the time being. This has to go through an iterative process that the projects will have to go through in consultation again with the members of Congress, Mr. Chairman. And then after that, we finally get the final National Expenditure Program level of the department, and that is where we finalize and list down actually the projects and programs that will be included already in the National Expenditure Program that is being submitted to Congress, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for that. We understand that the department is also delimited by the ceilings given by the DPM. But if we may suggest only when the ceiling comes in, that further the House members be consulted on what exactly are to be given priorities from among the projects. That's only a suggestion, Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, on the department's listing of the priorities. I have nothing further, Madam Chair, for this question. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Salamat, Fortes. Next is from the minority. The chair recognizes Representative Reynolds Michael Tan. Rep. Tan. Next is Representative, oh, sorry. Oh, Rep. Tan, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, Secretary Manuel Bunuan, and the officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways, good morning. First of all, I wish to congratulate Secretary Bunuan on being appointed as the Secretary of Dpwh. I am pleased to see that the President chose an experienced technocrat to lead one of the most important agencies in the government. My question today concerns the Maharlika Highway. To provide some context, the province of Samar has roughly the same population as La Union. In terms of land area, however, it has the same land area as Cavite, Laguna, Pampanga, and Metro Manila combined. Data from the department shows that about 205 kilometers of the Maharlika Highway runs through the province of Samar. This accounts to 52% of the whole Eastern Visayas segment of the highway. Specifically, The segment in the first district is 96 kilometers, and the segment in the second district is 109.7 kilometers long. Despite all of this, the Samar segment of the Maharlika Highway is the worst highway in the Eastern Visayas and probably the worst in the entire country. Large areas of the highway are heavily damaged and riddled with potholes. In certain areas, only one lane is passable. I want to emphasize that this issue isn't just local. This doesn't just affect Samar. The Maharlika Highway is the key artery that connects Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. The vehicles that pass through Samar segment of the highway are not just locals. In fact, most of the vehicles that use the highway are large transport trucks that carry essential goods from Luzon to Visayas and Mindanao, and vice versa. I understand that the department has had several projects in the last few years to try to fix and rehabilitate the highway. I laud the department for its efforts. What I don't understand, however, is in the last decade or so, the Samar segment has remained in a perpetual state of disrepair. For next year's proposed budget, only 3 billion was allocated for the projects involving the Samar's first and second district segment of the Maharlika Highway. This is even less than half of the total amount necessary to really restore the highway. I understand, Mr. Secretary, that what happened in the past is out of your control. I pray, however, that moving forward, something can be done. In this regard, I have a few questions. First, how does the department prioritize the distribution of road maintenance and repair projects?
Secretary Bonoan, do you wish to respond?
Mr. Chairman, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, the allocation for maintenance of our national roads is actually prepared on the basis of a scientific method of equivalent maintenance kilometerage. Actually, we have a good data of the extent of national roads in each of the districts, engineering districts that we have. And we allocate it on the basis proportionately to the number of kilometers and the condition of the roads, including that we'll consider actually the traffic volume in all these projects, in all these segments, Mr. Chairman. So let me just point out a little bit that for 2022, we have very limited budget for maintenance, but we are actually trying to maintain it in the 2023 budget, Mr. Chairman. Let me just respond to the concern of the Honorable Congressman from Samar with regard to the condition of the roads in Maharlika Highway, if you will allow me,
Go ahead,
Madam
please,
Chair.
Mr. Secretary.
Madam Chair, I think one of the priority programs of this administration is to reduce transport cost. And to do that, we want to construct, we want to rehabilitate the trunk lines of the national road system to be able to provide safe, unimpeded travel of our vehicles throughout to reduce cost of transport. Today, Mr. Chairman, if you will allow me, the cost of transporting goods in the Philippines on land transport is about 480 pesos per ton kilometer, while in the other countries in Asia, it's only about 250 pesos. So this is one of the priority areas. Daang Maharlika was constructed way back. This was initiated by the late President Marcos actually, and it was rehabilitated over the years. But because of economic developments along the areas and the increase of volume traffic, it has outlived its original design. So we need actually to review the design, the initial design of the national highways of Maharlika, so that we want to convert Daang Maharlika as a primary trunk line of unimpeded travel from Cagayan all the way to Mindanao. This is one of our priority projects. So I can rest assured the good congressman that the concern in Samar will be attended to within this administration, Mr. Chairman, including those, in fact, in Mindanao. In Luzon, I think we intend to actually also attend to the perennial travel bottlenecks along the Daang Maharlika, Madam Chair.
Rep. Tan, you have heard a strong commitment of the Secretary.
Secretary, can you please enlighten us on the department's plan for finally repairing and rehabilitating the highway?
Well, our plan, Mr. Chairman, is actually to continue to rehabilitate those that have sections that are already in despair. But the longer plan that we have is actually to have a full design of the entire Maharlika Highway, and we probably will have to sought for official development assistance funding, because this will involve huge investments for the next 6 years, Mr. Chairman.
Assuming that the highway can be rehabilitated, what is the department's plan for ensuring that the highway does not return to its current condition now?
There are two things, Mr. Chairman. I think there are two things. We have to continue with the maintenance requirements religiously to maintain the roads. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to address also the overloading problems in the Philippines. I think while it's true that the Philippines has the highest allowable permissible axle load in the world, which is about 13.5 tons per axle. We need to enforce this religiously, Mr. Chairman, so that to prevent the premature deterioration of our road system. No matter how we are going to improve the roads, if we are not going to control overloading, Mr. Chairman, I think we will just end up again with more deteriorations of our roads. This is our plan, actually, to also coordinate with other entities, actually, to address the overloading problem in the Philippines, Mr. Chairman.
Rep. Tan.
On a relative note, I hope the department can clarify some issues about the widening of the Maharlika Highway. In Eastern Visayas, certain segments have 4 lanes, but in much of Samar, there are only 2 lanes. This nullifies the impact of the road widening projects carried out in the last few years. As things stand, bottlenecks are created in those segments with only 2 lanes, resulting in heavy traffic. I have a few questions about this also. What is the intended width of all Maharlika Highway, and would the same be applied for Samar?
Mr. Secretary.
Certainly, Your Honor, Madam Chair. The intention, as I said, is actually to review the original design of the Maharlika Highway, and the plan actually is to widen Maharlika Highway to not less than 4 lanes, all over from Cagayan all the way to Mindanao, Mr. Chairman. And there may be some requirements actually for other sections to even increase it to 6 lanes, Mr. Chairman.
Finally, there are areas of the highways that are used by private individuals as their own parking spaces or an extension of their houses. Can you also enlighten us on what the assistance of the department can provide with respect to the issues of encroachment on highways?
Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this has always been a long issue that we have been trying to address, and you know, the only way that we can take this up is with the local government units, Madam Chair. You know, because the management of the traffic in their local areas is with the local government units, but we continue to encourage actually yung to make representations with the local government units as far as the traffic congestion problems in the national highways are concerned, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your insightful and candid answer. I am certain that the department will do exceedingly well under your leadership. Madam Chair, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Salamat,
Thank you, Your
Rep. Tan.
Honor.
Next to interpolate from the majority, the chair recognizes Deputy Majority Leader Jose Bong Teves.
Madam Chair, Secretary Bunuan, the entire Dpwh family, good morning. Madam Chair, gusto ko lang pong itanong kung meron kasi kaming na-check sa ating National Expenditure Program o NEP na nagkakahalaga ng 500 billion pesos na mga unprogram. At ang DPWH po rito na nakalagay ay 27 billion. Bakit po ito'y walang breakdown? Alam po namin na subject to certain conditions ang pag-utilize ng program appropriation na ito, pero most likely ang mga ito ay mapupunduhan naman. My next question will be about the budget for multipurpose building or facilities to support social services in the NEP. There is an amount of almost 4 billion pesos allocated in the DPWH Central Office. Ganon din po ang allocation para sa multipurpose building under the National Building Program na may halos 12 billion pesos na pondo na nakalagay sa Central Office, pero ang mga ito po, bakit hindi ito i-itemize? Ang dami-dami po mga LGUs at ibang government offices na nagre-request sa inyo ng mga multipurpose building. Nung nakaraang dumaang bagyo, 2021, 2022, halos marami mga multipurposes ang mga nagiba, under-repair. Bakit hindi po malagyan ng name o title at masama ito sa mga pondo na nakalamsam lang sa inyo? Meron naman kayo mga district engineer na umiikot, hindi ba nila kayang tingnan isa-isa kung nasa na mga ito? Samantalang ako po, si TJP Party List, na umiikot sa Visayas at Mindanao, sa mga tinamaan na bagyong Ruli, Ulysses, Quinta, Cebu, sa Catanduanes, sa Visayas, nakikita ko po na marami mga multipurpose doon, ang mga under-repair pa, hindi pa po nagagalaw. Ito po ay tatanungin ko during plenary ninyo sa budget. Sana po mabigyan ninyo ito ng aksyon. Pangalawa, gusto ko rin malaman sa inyong Regional Director 5, dahil mayroon po ito nakalagay na lamsam uli sa pagpapagawa ng evacuation center na 216 million. Pero bakit hindi ito ma-allocate kung saan ito ilalagay? Samantalang noong year 2020 o 2021, ang probinsya po ng Catanduanes, lalong-lalo ang bayan ko, Baras Catanduanes, tinamaan ng bagyo, nag-request kami ng evacuation center, hinanapan kami ng lote, may lote na ang LGU, mayroon na nga pinag-usapan, dumating na yung taga-DPWH, pero ang sabi, magmumuha na, nakahanda na yung MUA, walang dumating na pondo para doon, pero nakahanda yung lote. Pero meron kayong program na 217 million sa Region 5. Sana mabigyan nyo ito ng aksyon. Pangalawa, as a Deputy Majority Leader, na sana sumusuporta sa budget ng lahat ng departamento, pero marami pa akong nakikita na ang program, dapat malagyan nito ng programa. And lastly, Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, sana ang dasal po namin, mabigyan po ng aksyon ang mga unprogram natin na ito. Maraming salamat po.
Mr. Secretary, kindly respond to all of his questions.
Yes, Your Honor, Madam Chair, let me deal with the unprogrammed allocation that has been brought out by the Honorable Congressman. I think for the 2023 budget, if we are referring to the 23 proposed budget, Your Honor, we have actually submitted a request actually for under the unprogrammed allocation to the Department of Budget and Management for to augment our foreign assisted projects. Only for foreign assisted projects that we have requested, Your Honor, for the continuation of the yung for the continuation of the foreign funding appropriations, Mr. Chairman. 44 billion 989 for 9 foreign assisted projects, Mr. Chairman, to cope up with their budgetary requirements.
Rep. Teves, yes, you have 20 seconds, but are you satisfied with the response of the Secretary? Do you wish for the DPWH to submit in writing all of your requested breakdown?
Madam Chair, siguro naman yung ni-request po namin is year 2021 pa. Sana nailagay na sa programa nyo ngayon for the purpose nga meron kayong mga unprogram na nilagay pero nasa funded na sa NEP. Kaya yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Salamat po. Next, to interpolate from the minority, the Chair recognizes Representative Harris Ongchuan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, Secretary Bonoan, and officials of the Department of Public Works and Highways, esteemed colleagues, good morning. Madam Chair, one of the flagship projects of the Duterte administration was the Samar Pacific Coastal Road Project, or the SPCRP, under the Build program. This would, if completed, this will connect the province of Eastern Samar and the 2nd District of Northern Samar. The SPCRP is one of the 7 major infrastructure projects of President Duterte, and I think he plans to finish this by the end of his term. I just would like to ask, what is the current status right now of this project?
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Your Honor. Madam Chair, if you will permit me, I will ask my senior undersecretary who is on top of the project to make a response.
Undersecretary,
Undersecretary Sadain.
kindly state your name and position.
Madam Chair, Your Honor, I'm Senior Yusek Emil Sadain of Dpwh. Madam Chair, with regards to the questions of the Honorable Congressman from Northern Samar, we have 2 projects. We call it the Samar Pacific Coastal Road Project, Phase 1, that covers the area from Palapag to Simora. This is almost done. In fact, by December, this will be fully completed. And the Phase 2 of this kind of financing under Korean Exim Bank will finance this section from Katarman to Palapag, passing the two bridges of Lawang 2 and the Kalumutan Bridge. So there are two bridges and the 12.5 kilometers missing link that connect Palapag to Katarman, which is the subject of the Phase 2 versions of the Samar Pacific Coastal Road Project, which has now completed its feasibility study and is now in the pipeline for implementations by the coming year, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. And this is currently also taken up for NEDA ICC review, and hopefully we can have the approval under this early quarter, Madam Chair. Thank you po.
Yung Phase 1 po, ano po yung timeline, completion?
The Phase 1 earlier, from Simura to Palapag, that will be by December this year.
December of this year?
Yes po. And the Phase 2, which covered the subject area of your concern, Your Honor, is actually by 2027.
Okay. Thank you, Yusek Sadain. Thank you, Secretary Bonoan. That would be all, Madam Chair.
Salamat, Rep. Ongchuan. Next is from the majority. The Chair recognizes Representative Muhammad Khalid Dimaporo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first question is, well, generally, when we receive the NEP, I heard a lot of grumblings from my colleagues here that we have a reduction in our respective districts. But I'd like to ask, last NEP, in the 2022 NEP for the 2022 budget, what did DPWH get?
Mr. Secretary.
As I pointed out, Mr. Chairman, the National Expenditure Program that was the ceiling is the ceiling that was given to us for the National Expenditure Program of DPWH, about 718 billion, 700.
NEP is 686 per NEP. This is the
for 2022. For 2022, Mr. Chairman, the General Appropriations Act, the total to about 786 billion.
Madam Chair, I'm asking for the NEP of 2022.
686, sir. 686.
What you indicated was the 2022 GAA.
Ang NEP natin, 686. 686.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
686 billion.
The national NEP, the NEP for
686.
the NEP in 2022, Mr. Chairman, is 686 billion.
The NEP was 686, which is actually lower than the NEP this year, 718. And because of the hard work of our now Speaker, former Majority Leader, the gentleman Martin Romualdez, he was able to craft an additional budget for the DPWH of almost 100 billion, if I'm not mistaken. From NEP to GAA.
NEP to GAA, Mr. Chairman,
100 billion.
our NEP for 2023 is 718.355 billion pesos for 2023. The GAA allocation for 2022 is 786.600 billion, Your Honor.
From what I remember, Madam Chair, the good secretary stated on the record, NEP 2022 was 686. GAA 2022 is 786.
Yes.
So I'm saying this on the record so our leaders here in Congress can see the performance in the 18th Congress. Now, we received a NEP of 686, and because of our hard work and the scrutiny of the national budget, we were able to bolster the DPWH by an additional roughly 100 billion. And that is what I want to place in the record. Our hopes among the majority of the congressmen that our good speaker, especially with our very dynamic Majority Leader Manix Delipe, will deliver for the 18th Congress first budget an additional 100 billion at minimum for the DPWH. Kung kaya nila last year, then kaya rin namin this year, inshallah, God willing. Can I get a confirmation or reply from our good secretary?
Mr. Secretary.
Continuously work.
Well, Your Honor, Madam Chair, we will continue to work with the leadership of Congress, and we pray and hope actually that at the end of the day we will be able to get more than what has been allocated in 2022, Your Honor, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like now to move to my next question, and that will single out my good friend Undersecretary Emil Sadain. What is the status of the Pangil Bay Bridge?
Madam Chair, Your Honor, I think this was the same question asked by the Honorable Congressman, but we do agree to his deep concern because of the previous problems that we had encountered long before, and thanks you also to the interventions of the whole family of the Dpwh clan in resolving these issues. But now we are back on track as far as the target setting is concerned, and as we have mentioned yesterday, the full completions of the Pangil Bay Bridge, which is 3.16 kilometers long, will be by December 2023 as scheduled. And we do hope that we can be on track as we move on, but despite of the limitations on the resources as far as the budget cover, but we do agree, but as committed by Sec Bonoan, this will be fully funded also by next year. So we can assure, Madam Chair, Your Honor, a full completion of projects by December 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Yusek Sadain. We're looking forward to the completion of the Pangil Bay Bridge. I just like to state in the record so the good secretary can hear it, that the Pangil Bay Bridge was actually born in the SONA message, strong Republic SONA message of our then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Imagine how long ago that was. And I kept fighting for it in the last Congresses with my good friend, Secretary Mark Villar. And in the 17th Congress, 18th Congress, palaging sinasabi niya sa akin, every budget hearing, mahuman yan, matatapos yan sa panahon ni Presidente Duterte. But until now, it's only 50%. And I like to place this on the record, Madam Chair, because when our candidate for President, Bongbong Marcos, came to Lanao del Norte, the first thing I said to him is, welcome to Lanao del Norte, and we look forward to seeing you again. He had that question mark on his face. And I explained to him, that's because we have a very big project here, the Pangil Bay Bridge. And God willing, inshallah, you will be elected as president by the majority of the Filipino electorate. We hope that you will come back to our province to inaugurate the Pangil Bay Bridge. Can we expect that under the administration of our President Bongbong Marcos, Secretary? Madam Chair, I'd like to hear that from the Secretary so I can get it on record.
Yes, of course, certainly, Your Honor, Madam Chair, I think, we will, as we have committed, the project will be completed by December of 2023. And I will personally convey to the President about this project, and certainly I will make a representation for the President actually to be able to come to the site, and this is going to be the first big project that probably the President will inaugurate, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to go to the next question, and that's in regards to the former program of our former Secretary Mark Villar, and he wanted to ensure that our barangays are disaster resilient. So DPWH had a very good program establishing evacuation centers. Na sana lang darating yung panahon na we are no longer using the classrooms as evacuation centers because of the help of DPWH, because of a very good program of DPWH. Our localities have a dedicated evacuation centers in times of flash flood, in times of typhoon, and maybe even in times of earthquakes. Is this program still alive under the DPWH agenda?
Your Honor, Madam Chair, yes, this is a continuing program. It's an ongoing program, and we will continue with this program, Mr. Chairman. I think so far we have completed 80 evacuation centers all over the country, and we continue to plan and implement. In 2022, there is a budgetary allocation that we are implementing for the evacuation centers in many regions, actually, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm very happy to hear that because may kulang pa sa distrito ko. So I'll be submitting requests to the good secretary. Hopefully, we can get some action for my respect for the first district of Lanao del Norte. My next question, Madam Chair, is in regards to the Bangsamoro Organic Law, wherein the BOL took away the powers of the then ARMM and brought back to the national government management over national roads. And when I asked this as chairman of Mindanao Affairs in the previous Congress, the answer of the DPWH is we are still waiting for the BARM to identify what are the national roads and transmit ownership or management of those national roads to the national DPWH. So it can be part of the regular maintenance program of DPWH National. I'd like to know the status of this, or are we still in a transitionary period?
Rep. Timaporo, that was your last question. Mr. Secretary.
Yes, may I ask our senior undersecretary who is in charge of the Bangsamoro area, Bia Barm area, here, Madam Chair.
Yusek Sadain, you are
Madam Chair,
recognized.
Your Honor, with regards to the BARM under RA 1154, it's clearly explicitly mentioned, Section 37, Alter 13, that all national infra of BARM shall be funded and implemented by national agencies. In this case, in the case of infrastructure, this is under DPWH. Right now, Madam Chair, we had already covered the full inventory of the national roads for BARM, which account to a total of 1,038 kilometers long. And this is now being enrolled in the national road system of the department, which become now part of the priority list in the succeeding budget from 2023 onward. And the BARM also has got also a share of the maintenance of national budget. With regards to the organizations of the BARM, Madam Chair, Your Honor, we had actually enlisted and recruited around roughly 80 personnel from the initial 100 positions given by DBM. And progressively, we are also expecting some additional plantilla positions to complete the creations of the regional PMO for BARM and the creations of the 4 PMOs covering PMO for Tawi-Tawi, Sulu, Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Lanao, and Maguindanao. For Basilan, we have already district office which cater to the needs of the region, I mean the province, in this particular case, Madam Chair, Your Honor.
Rep. Timaporo, your closing, please.
Yes, thank you. And in closing, Madam Chair, I'd just like to say, as for one of the legislative accomplishments of the 1st and 2nd District of Lanao del Norte is the redistricting of our district engineering office. Wala nang Iligan City. But apparently, when that happened, it scattered in the province na may additional. Pwede tayo mag-request ng 100 million road right-of-way from DPWH. And I was very upset at that, because that's a form of corruption, because that's not the right price of our land in Lanao del Norte. I'd like to say thank you to our good mayor, the capital town of Tubod, Jimmy Cabahog, who has donated 1 hectare for the district engineering office of the 1st district. Wala nang bayad. It's free from the local government unit of Tubod, Lanao del Norte. Nagtaya na ang munisipyo. The next step is DPWH. Sana lang we can get the counterpart, which is the budget, to develop and to construct a brand new 1st District Engineering Office in the province of Lanao del Norte, our capital town, Tubod, Lanao del Norte. Daghang salamat sa inyong tanan. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the privilege to ask questions.
Salamat, Rep. Timaporo. Next to interpolate from the minority, we have Deputy Minority Leader Bernadette Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as good morning, Secretary Bunuan. Good morning to the DPWH family. As DBM hasn't gotten back to me hanggang po kanina, hinihintay ko po yung kasagutan. Alam naman po ni Secretary tsaka ni Yusek Cathy yung binring up ko na concern. DBM hasn't gotten back to me. So Madam Chair, I will just reserve my right to ask questions on that concern during plenary debates until mabigay po sa akin ng DBM yung kasagutan. Kasi kahit anong gawin ko, Secretary, lalo ako nahihilo. But for the meantime, I will just stick lang po sa isang concern. Alam ko po kanina, nagpapalakpakan tayo dahil ang taas ng naibigay na budget natin sa DPWH. Kaya alam, Mr. Secretary, I have high hopes. Meron po tayong unreleased appropriation na 39 billion and unobligated allotment na 48 billion noong 2021. At ang pinakamasakit po nag-remit tayo ng overall savings na 3.4 billion noong 2021, para po sa amin na nagkakandara pa mapondohan ng mga priority projects natin, masakit pong tignan na nagbalik tayo dahil hindi natin nagamit. Bakit po ba nangyari ito at paano po ba natin may iwasan with your leadership, Mr. Secretary? Through you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there are many sources where the savings are being generated. Actually, Madam Chairman, one of the sources is actually, there is a bidding process for projects, and more often than not, actually, the budgetary allocation for the project, when you bid it out, there are bids that are lower than what has been programmed. So, when inevitably the difference will be the savings that we are talking about. And of course, we generated what the good Congresswoman has mentioned, about 3-point-something billion in 2021. This savings is in standby budgetary allocation for augmentation of other projects, Madam Chair. So these are being used actually to augment what is the additional requirements for deficiencies for ongoing projects, Madam Chair. For 2022, as I assumed the office, there has been this savings augmentation from 2021 that I have encountered, and because of the deficiencies for 2022 in our maintenance budget for foreign assisted project, for preliminary engineering, we have utilized this actually to augment our requirements for maintenance, for foreign assisted projects, and for preliminary engineering requirements, Madam Chair. Thank you po.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair. So yung overall savings, yun lang po yun, yung difference ng ABC, tsaka wala na pong ibang project. So that's just all. Ano po kaya yung, Madam Chair, yung unreleased appropriations or obligated allotment of 48 billion? Ano pong nangyari po dito?
Madam Chair, I think yung unappropriated, unallocated, unreleased funds, Mr. Chairman. These are probably some of the projects that are awaiting the releases for the SARO, because these are the projects that have been labeled as for later release. For later release. But these are actually, these are already appropriated in the
What about
budget.
the unobligated allotment, Madam Chair?
Hindi pa obligated, Your Honor. Because the SARO has not yet been
Magkaiba po
released.
kasi yung unreleased appropriation tsaka yung unobligated allotment.
Yes.
Siguro, Madam Chair, submit na lang po sa akin ano po yung naapektuhan doon sa unreleased appropriation and unobligated allotment. That those are two different, entirely different things, Madam Chair. So, kahit submit na lang po sa office. And yung tinanong ko rin po about the MVUC, sana po magkaroon ng in writing nasagot po sa office para mas lalo ko pong maintindihan ano po yung nangyari for this year. And my last appeal through you, Madam Chair, yung DRT project po natin that would cut down yung bypass road from DRT to San Jose del Monte. Medyo malaki pa po ang requirement noon. Sana po fully mapondohan natin para matapos po natin siya this year. Sayang naman po yun. This is with the permission of Kong Lorna rin po, dun po sa distrito niya. So yun lang po, I await the answers of DBM with my other concern. So I reserve na lang, Madam Chair, during plenary. Again, Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. And with your leadership, sana po, wala na po tayong continuing appropriation na 77 billion, unreleased appropriation na 39 billion, and unobligated allotment na 48 billion. Pag nakakarinig po kami ng ganito, nangihinayang po kami dahil napakadami pa po nating proyektong dapat gawin para sa build po natin. Maraming salamat, Dpwh family. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Salamat, Rep. Herrera. Mr. Secretary, kindly take note of all the requests for submissions and kindly submit to the Committee on Appropriations copy furnished, Rep. Herrera. And at this point, I yield the chair to Vice Chair Ronald Singson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, may we recognize Representative Ginto for his comments.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and to the Department of Public Works and Highways, headed by Secretary Bunoan. Mr. Chair, firstly, I wish to manifest my support to the proposed Iloilo-Capiz-Aklan Expressway. A few weeks ago, the Dpwh PPP service presented to the provincial government of Iloilo its project proposal, which has an estimated length of 210 kilometers, passing through 20 municipalities along 3 provinces of Panay Island. May I just inquire, if there has been any new development on this project?
As far as I know, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, the proposal is now being reviewed, and the program preparations for the proposed expressway is documentation is under preparation because obviously we intend to have this under the public-private partnership program, Your Honor, because this is a expressway that will require huge investment, and we intend it to be under the public-private partnership program, Your Honor.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chair. That will really help the province and the island of Panay. Second, Mr. Chair, Dpwh has a 1 billion budget for electric post relocation. How much of the 1 billion will be allotted for completed road widening projects? Because I noticed that there are completed road widening projects that still have electric posts remaining on the roads.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, no less than the President has called my attention actually with regard to these unrelocated posts all over the national roads that have been widened, Your Honor. And I understand that the issue is actually while we are allocating the funds for the relocation of the electric utility, the posts actually, the responsibility for the relocation is actually with the electric cooperatives themselves, Mr. Chairman. So we allocate these funds, but the electric cooperatives is taking them some time actually because they would like to incorporate actually their expansion program for the relocation. So taking them time. So this is what we are trying to convince actually the local government, the electric cooperatives to please actually for the safety of our motorists actually to immediately at the earliest possible time relocate the post where we have widened actually the roads, Mr. Chairman. We are continuing this dialogue with these cooperatives and of course with the help of the local governments units, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, may I know what is the procedure, no? Pardon for my ignorance, in the process of the relocation, ano po ba ang procedure natin? Ano po bang dapat mauna? Ang pagre-relocate po ba ng mga poste o yung pag-widen po natin?
Mr. Chairman, whenever we widen actually our roads, we coordinate with, of course, ang mga utility providers na we intend to widen the roads, because, of course, we have an agreement actually in the first place with this, with utility companies or cooperatives. Actually, that in our agreement with these utility companies, whenever the department or the national government needs to widen the road, then it is actually the responsibility to relocate. That is very explicit in our agreement with them. Nevertheless, Mr. Chairman, because in the essence of time, we understand the predicament of the cooperatives that they don't have all the funds actually to make the relocation. So we are actually providing it into our program of work actually, that the needed expense to relocate. But we give them notice that on this day, on this time, we are going to widen the roads. And of course, they know the program of the department. So, and we will tell them that we will put it into our budget proposal, the replacement cost, relocation cost, and replacement, relocation cost of their post. So this is where the timing actually, Mr. Chairman, is being challenged actually at this time. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Secretary. Tama po yan kasi ang pag hindi natin pag-relocate ng mga posts poses not only inconvenience but also threat of accidents to the road users that lead to injury or much worse, death. It also defeats the purpose of road widening projects because road widening projects are intended to increase the capacity of our existing road networks by allowing more traffic to pass through. This will improve public transportation by easing the flow of traffic and will bring economic growth and development since more goods can be imported. Because of the stray of posts which obstruct portions of the widened road, the benefits of improved public transportation and economic growth and development is not realized to its full existence. I hope with your leadership, Mr. Chair, Secretary Bonoan, that Dpwh will address this problem so that the budget allocated for road widening projects will not be wasted. At para makatulong po tayo sa ating mga kababayan na yung mga transportation efficiency will be much more improved. Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair and Secretary Bonoan.
Thank you, Representative Ginto. If I may suggest, because that is a problem almost in all areas, and if I may suggest you try convincing your local government units to put pressure on the electric cooperatives. That's what we do in our area. Thank you. Now, we recognize Representative Marisa Magsino. Here? Wala. Here. Oh. Representative Marisa Magsino. Oh, via Zoom. Okay. Oh. Madam, okay, session suspended. Break naman.
Okay. Good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon. Sorry, I wasn't unmute immediately by the host. Good afternoon po, OFW representative,
Excuse me.
Congresswoman Marisa Delmar Magsino, Madam Chair,
Excuse me.
Secretary Bonoan, and the Dpwh family.
Excuse me.
Magandang hapon po.
Rep
I
Magsino.
would like to ask, Mr. Chair, Madam
Excuse me.
Chair,
Rep Magsino.
Secretary Bonoan.
We are currently suspended. The session is currently suspended for a bathroom break. We'll get back to you after we resume the session.
Wait.
Talaga yun. Okay, session resumed. Secretariat, can we recognize again Representative Magsino?
Yes.
Please.
Mr. Chair, thank you
you.
so much. I'm here, Congresswoman Marisa Delmar Magsino of the OFW Party List, Assistant Minority Leader, and representing the housing sector too. Mr. Chair, Secretary Bonoan, I would like to congratulate you, and I hope this leadership of yours will be something that we will be looking forward to in the 19th Congress. Secretary, Mr. Chair, how much is your budget for the right-of-way payments for your proposed 2023 National Expenditure Program?
Mr. Secretary.
Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, the
Yes.
the budget that we have allocated for the payment of road right-of-way in our proposed 2023 budget is almost for our local expenditures, it's about 20 billion, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Secretary, from the budget of almost 20 billion, where will all this money go? Have you identified them? Because this is a big amount po.
Yes, Your Honor, we have a breakdown actually of our payables by
Aging.
aging claims by region, Your Honor,
More than 30 billion.
which is actually more than 30 billion, but our allocation only for 2023 is about 20 billion, Your Honor. We can furnish the Honorable Congresswoman the breakdown by region if necessary, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary, may I be enlightened? As you have said, this is almost 30 billion pa yung inyong obligations for the road right-of-way. May I know the absorptive capacity of your agency on this matter, considering that most of these matters are either in court in the middle of issues concerning ownership and possession? Please, as you have said, please provide this representation, the details of the proposed right-of-way payments, please. I am saying this, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, because I myself, being in the housing industry, has been a victim of the road right-of-way. We had been widened once, and they never give us any compensation for the right-of-way. And second, they want to do another right-of-way, and this was at least 1 hectare plus was cut in our property. And secondly, they want to have another road right-of-way in Laurel, Talisay, Batangas. And I told them no, because we have to be paid the road right-of-way compensation. This was already given to the Dpwh 2 decades ago, and I was remembering very vividly that Secretary Singson, immediately after having the post, said and answered us that there's no budget for the road right-of-way. May I ask Secretary Bonoan that our concern be addressed, because we have been paying religiously our taxes for the hectares of land that the corporation has been owning, and this is very unfair for us. And there is always like an issue of informal settlers, and DPWH was asking that because there's several claimants. When is these claimants more superior than the Supreme Court ruling and the RTC ruling that way back many years ago? So I would like to furnish your good office. Our congressional office will be submitting DPWH office regarding our concern. And I will be looking forward, Secretary Bunoan, for the immediate response. On other matters, Mr. Chair, what do you mean by, sorry, it's here po, sorry. In the budget proposal of the department for 2023, an amount of 16.8 billion is allocated for the Tourism Road Infrastructure Program, TRIP, for the construction of access roads and bridges leading to declared tourism destinations in support of the National Tourism Development Plan. It sets the conditions that the infrastructure projects to be funded under the program must be identified jointly by the DPWH and the Department of Tourism, and that they are not covered by other funding sources. My question is, what do we mean by declared tourism destination? Is the declaration by law, by congressional act, LGU ordinance, or through administrative determination by DPWH or DOT? In which case, may a congressional representative endorse a site to DPWH and or DOT for its declaration as a tourism destination and be covered under TRIP, provided it is consistent with the National Tourism Development Plan? Can we be clarified on this?
Mr. Secretary, please respond.
Thank you, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. As far as the convergence program that we are implementing under the tourism program, the process is actually that the priority projects that we include in our budget are actually being endorsed and identified and endorsed by the Department of Tourism, Your Honor. And we just, whenever there is a proposal from the Department of Tourism, we look into the process of preparing the necessary technical requirements for us to be able to implement and operate and implement it. Afterwards, Mr. Chairman, once we have completed the project, we turned it over to the local government unit for their maintenance and upkeep, Mr. Chairman. So all these projects are actually emanates from the process that has been laid down in accordance with the memorandum of agreement that we have done with the Department of Tourism. The program that we are implementing in 2023 are only those that are continuation of ongoing projects, Mr. Chairman, and I believe, as I have been informed, that we have not, these are local roads and we have not included any new projects at this point in time for the tourism program, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, assuming Secretary Bonoan that a site has been declared a tourism destination by law, say by a congressional act that I am contemplating to propose, notwithstanding any appropriation provision in the law for the development of the area, will the site be automatically covered by TRIP since the program pertains particularly to construction of access roads and bridges? Mr. Chair.
Again, yes, of course, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. I think, as I said, you know, the convergence program is being coordinated with the Department of Tourism. So, whatever package that the Department of Tourism will incorporate into their in their projects that we have to support with the access roads will be incorporated, Mr. Chairman. I believe that the Honorable Congresswoman is saying it's going to be legislated destination. So, well, all the more that it's going to be a priority, perhaps, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, one more question. For the global warming and climate change, in special provision number 7 for the department, the Dpwh is encouraged to consider the adoption of standards for various hazards, global warming, or climate change in the feasibility study, design, and detailed engineering works of all infrastructure programs in coordination with the Climate Change Commission. The question is, the provision is merely elective in tone. Should this be a mandatory requirement for the Dpwh to observe? And what specific projects, as example, has Dpwh implemented, ongoing implementation, or under plan in observance of this provision? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, we have actually, in some instances, we have actually revised our technical standards actually to be able to address the effect of climate change, particularly in calamity-stricken areas. In fact, for flood control, we now have a 50-year return period design requirements instead of before about 25 years return period. And for buildings, we are now adopting a new national building code standard for us to be able to again for purposes of the earthquake design requirements, Mr. Chairman. And for school buildings, we are adopting a design requirement for resilient school buildings of 180 to 250 kilometers per hour wind speed, especially in the eastern seaboard of the Philippines, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And thank you,
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Bonoan. And we're looking forward for a good collaboration with your good office. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Salamat, Representative Magsino. Now we move on to recognize Representative Cynthia Chan, please. Zoom rin ba? Representative Cynthia Chan. On Zoom. Okay. Okay, we move on to the next then. Representative Pablo Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Secretary Banoan and the members of the Dpwh family for accommodating our questions and our requests. Now, I'm just concerned with two areas in the Dpwh programs, Secretary. First, because it involves Cebu and our district. First, this is with regard to protection systems for unstable slopes, slope protection. In a series of department orders from the time of Secretary Singson to the time of Secretary Villar and Secretary Oging Mercado, several department orders have been issued setting minimum standards and specifications for slope protection systems and rockfall protection. I'm just concerned, Mr. Secretary, how does the Dpwh ensure that these minimum standards and specifications, with particular emphasis on the materials used, are complied with in the implementation of these projects, Mr. Secretary?
Well, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I think the process would be, well, a straightforward engineering assessment of what would be required. There are processes and technical procedures that has to be observed actually in determining what would be the appropriate intervention or solution for slope protection works. There are many engineering solutions actually, Mr. Chairman, that can be adopted depending on the situation of the slope of the area and the geological formation that we have to attend to and things like this. So, and on top of that, we also have to look into what would be the most economical solution that would be adopted, Mr. Chairman, as far as the engineering solutions are concerned. You know, we need to look into what would be the most economical and fastest way to address the problem in a particular area, Mr. Chairman. But as I said, you know, there are engineering designs and processes and procedures and standards that has to be, that we go through in determining what would be the intervention that is needed, Mr. Chairman.
So that, Mr. Secretary, it would be easy for Dpwh to see if, for instance, contractors are using substandard materials. You do a regular audit of these projects, Mr. Secretary?
Absolutely, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. I think, you know, any project in the Department of Public Works and Highways is, as I've been there long before, it has to undergo yung quality assurance audit every time during and after the implementation of the project, Mr. Chairman. And before final payment, it has to be certified that it was done in accordance with the specifications and requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And would the good Secretary, Mr. Chair, be able to give this representation relevant materials regarding to the audit of these, particularly these slope protection projects nationwide, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we will comply.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Secretary. The second area really is the area of flood control, which over the years, the budget has grown tremendously, exponentially, Mr. Chair. And I am concerned because As you may read from the papers, our province, and in particular my district, has been flood prone the past few months, probably because of rising water levels, Mr. Chair. Does the department have a program, the spending program for this master plan for this flood control projects, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman. The department is undertaking, well, we have identified 18 major river basins all over the country. And we have completed some of the master plans in the major river basins that we have identified, first of all, to actually to look into the problems of flooding. Some of them are being implemented through official development assistance and through local funds, Mr. Chairman. I think, these are the big ticket projects for flood control. But we are also trying to address and help actually the flooding problems in specific municipalities and cities. And one of the things that we have found out actually, Mr. Chairman, is because of population growth, the developed urbanization, in many cities, including Metro Manila for that matter, the capacity of absorption of the runoff is no longer there because everything is being paved. So the water runoff actually has to go through a system of drainage. And unfortunately, many of the drainage systems in many cities have already been outdated and antiquated, so it's no longer able to convey the runoff water to be discharged to the main river courses. So these are the problems that we have seen, Mr. Chairman. And I think this is the problem of many cities, probably including Cebu, for that matter, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Secretary. The reason I'm asking is because while we have seen the tremendous increase in the budget for flood control, we in Cebu in particular have not really felt, the increase in the spending of flood control. So, in the interest of time, in as much as I would like to ask more questions, I reserve my right to ask questions during plenary. But in the meantime, could the department please provide this representation through the committee of the following reports, because I would like to see how it has been spent over the years, Mr. Chairman. First, the allocations or amounts appropriated for asset preservation under rehabilitation, reconstruction of roads with slope collapse, landslides for the years 2019, 2020, 21, and 2022. Okay. Second, the allocations or amounts appropriated for flood control for the same years, 2019, 2020, 21, 22. And please include for both number 1 and number 2 the list of implemented projects, the amounts, the locations and the districts, and possibly the implementing contractors to whom they were awarded. And number 4, also to submit a statement of appropriation obligation and balances and disbursements per regional office for the whole budget downloaded for these items during the same period, Mr. Secretary, because I'd like to see really how our province has fared in these areas, Mr. Secretary. And if possible, could the Secretary give us a commitment to furnish us copies of these documents at least 5 days before plenary debates on the Dpwh budget, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we'll certainly try our very best actually to provide what is requested by the good congressman, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Garcia. Now we move on to our good friend here, Representative Ramon Rufus Rodriguez. Yes, sir. You're recognized, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and our presiding chair. First of all, let me greet our good friend, Secretary Manny Punoan of the DPWH, and of course the USEC who are here, who have been helping again the Oro and the ASECs and all the officialdom of the Department of Public Works and Highways. There are many reasons why Cagayan de Oro thanks Secretary Bunoan. In 2008, if you will remember, you were the senior undersecretary of Public Works. And because President Jaime at the time made sure that Mindanao will have the highest budget among the regions, that was the time of President Jaime. And therefore, Secretary Bunoan concreted the Ayala Avenue of Cagayan de Oro City, that is the Apolinar Valley Street. Thank you for that, Secretary. We'll never forget you for being the one implementing. Of course, Secretary Ebdani was there, but you were the one who went to Cagayan de Oro. Now it is the best example of the best concreting in Cagayan de Oro and in fact all over Mindanao. Second reason, we thank you for our allocation. You have recommended to the DBM and reduced, but we thank you because we believe that there is a general plan and general, limits to our districts. Thank you for the allocation for the second district of Cagayan de Oro. May I now, so that we can continue thanking you, may I now request you some more? Yeah. First, I would just like to request, Mr. Secretary, the bottleneck of BCIR is Galaxy Street Corner BCIR. Really, for the past 6 years, ano na talaga eh. It's really from Butuan and from Malaybalay, from Bukidnon, it's really traffic. We ask you to give us, in this case, an overpass so that we will be able to have that. Thank you. Can you hear first the Secretary? Can you stop the clock?
Yeah, certainly, Your Honor, this is one of the priority areas that we would like to address, yung mga traffic congestion problems, and to speed up mobility, particularly in urban areas, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that answer. Thank you for that commitment. A new overpass to Galaxy Street Corner BCIR. Secondly, because this will take time, Secretary, we just want from you to finish 300 meters of the CDO Coastal Bypass Road. You know why? This is a signal light. So right now it's just so much traffic. But if you complete 300 meters going to beside the sea, we can turn right so that we can go straight to the CDO Coastal Bypass Road. Can we also get the request, the answer of the Secretary on the completion of just 300 meters of the CDO Coastal Road so that we can turn right? If you come from Butuan, you turn right and go directly to the CDO Coastal Bypass Road as completed.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, I think, yes, I think this is also, will be looking into it and giving it a priority in our program, Your Honor.
Thank you again, Secretary. My third request, Cagayan de Oro, even if there's really no strong rains, are flooded. And the areas that are extremely flooded are our national highway, first district and second district. Can we ask specifically, this is now a specific request, for funding of 50 million for a, very small, for a feasibility study of a comprehensive drainage system of Cagayan de Oro, both first and second district, main line, secondary line, tertiary line, because our drainage system was made 40 years ago. And so therefore, you are correct, The population of Cagayan de Oro before was only about 250,000. Now it is 800,000 in the city of Golden Friendship. Can we get the answer of the Secretary?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, I think we'll also look into that problem of looking into the flooding problem, particularly it's the national roads, as you are mentioning, that is going to be affected. We cannot afford to have a flooded national road, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And the 50 million, Secretary?
Of course.
Thank you. The answer is of course on the record. Of course. Now, my last question, because we are now on the last minute.
Yeah.
Our convergence program for the barangays. Our upland barangays, consisting of 5 barangays, do not have water. It's already more than 30 years, 3 decades, no water, no matter what we do, because, our water district could not handle it. We are requesting only 50 million for each of the barangay water system of 5 barangays. We have given the letters to you, and it's only 250 million, and we help the poor of Cagayan de Oro and those in the far-flung areas to be able to have water, because water, according to Schindler, is life. May I ask, therefore, our Secretary for the answer?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Chairman. I think this is one of the areas that we are looking into, because this is, again, this is under the Mandanas law, yung panahon natin nito. But we will certainly look into the possibility of putting it into the convergence program, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. And now, in my last seconds, I therefore move, Madam Chair, to approve the budget, the entire budget of the Department of Public Works, 718 billion plus 100 million at least, 100 billion at least, so that our congressmen from the other districts could be added for their public works projects. So move, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The motion will be tackled at a later date. Thank you very much, Representative Rodriguez.
Thank you very much,
Now,
Mr. Chairman.
the Chair wishes to apologize to everyone because I made a mistake in reading the name. So, Representative Rufus Rodriguez was called first, but actually I was supposed to call Representative Ramon Rodrigo Gutierrez. Thank you.
No problem.
Again,
Thank
my
you very much
apologies.
for adding a new name.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. On my part, personally, no problem at all. To the Mr. Chair, esteemed colleagues, the good Honorable Secretary, USEX, and the rest of the DPWH officials, good morning. My first concern po is, it was already brought up with the good Secretary, and this is regarding certain, on our part, irreconcilable discrepancies in our NEP and DPM details. But as explained by the good Secretary, and for the record, we will be discussing this with the DBM to get to the bottom of it. And for that purpose, we will defer discussion of this topic for a later time. On our second issue that we would like to bring up, and I believe this was also mentioned earlier, we would like to discuss the unreleased appropriation and unobligated allotment that the department has received for 2021, as that should have been discussed earlier. It's been made clear to us, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Chairman, that the unobligated allotment is should be of great concern for us, as this, in our mind, speaks of probably projects that are not yet shovel-ready. So we deferred its discussion to the report that we are expecting. So at this point, Mr. Chair, may this representation manifest that we would also like to receive the good department's report on the unreleased and unreleased appropriations and unobligated allotment. And on the third point, and I think this one would be the main thrust for our discussion, this representation has sent a letter to the department upon our assumption of office last July 25. It was dated August 4 and received August 11. And although with after multiple follow-ups and through the efforts of the good USEC Carvajal, we have received yesterday the response. But Mr. Chair, for the information of everyone, this letter is in relation to certain black spots in our country. And as a representative of the motorist community, One Rider Party List, this is in line squarely with our advocacy for road safety. I would like to ask, Mr. Chair, the DPWH, what exactly is the status of these black spots?
Yes, Mr. Chair, may I be allowed to ask our Undersecretary for
Of course.
Services to respond?
Of course, Mr. Secretary. Kindly state your name and position, by the way.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Honorable Congressman. I am Maximo Carbajal, Undersecretary of the DPWH.
Please proceed.
Sir, the status of the black spots identified by the department is already posted in our website. And actually, we have identified from 2018, have already identified 840 black spots. And we have implemented our Institute Engineering Intervention for 148.
Mr. Chair, it just begs the question, because in the report that was given to me, it was simply a statement of number, region, district, and road intersection name. Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I'd like to bring the attention to the DPWH that in our letter, we requested specifically the specific locations of accident-prone areas, regions with the number of accidents, causes of accidents, and the measures implemented. So, and our concern here, Mr. Chair, is that why is the report that was handed to us, for lack of a better term, bare, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Secretary.
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, maybe this is a lapse of communication, but I can assure the good Congressman that we'll be providing the details of what he's requesting on the specific locations of the black spots and the causes of accidents along the way, Your Honor. May I assure the good Congressman that this is one of the priority areas that we're going to look into, actually, because one death is one too many for us, actually, in addressing, actually, road safety in our roads, Mr. Chairman. We will attend seriously to attend on these black spots, Mr. Chairman. We have a team that is going through the national roads, identifying the black spots, Mr. Chairman. And we will do that. We will give you the inventory that we have, the total requirements that we need, actually, and the program that we have implemented so far, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, that is music to my ears. I would like to thank the good Secretariat, and I'd like to manifest that I am elated that we are of one mind, that one death is too many when it comes to accidents. And actually, that is the main thrust of our party list. Every year, thousands would perish from road crashes. It is a very sad state of affairs. And that's why, Mr. Chair, it was a very big point for us in asking for these reports. Because although I see the numbers, the road intersection, this is just the list of investigated black spots. But what our constituent wants to ask, what is being done about these black spots? Because it's actually, Mr. Chair, it's very bewildering to find out that we have, after finding it now from the good USEC, 800 plus identified black spots, but only 100 plus have engineering interventions. What happens to the rest? Mr. Chair, it begs the question, where is our MVUC going? As a road user, as representative for the motorists, this is a very big issue for us every time we were being asked to pay this MVUC. And to my understanding, the earmark revenue of your NEP, the BSF, it suggests that we have 15 million in revenues. Yet we have an outstanding balance of, I believe, 80 billion. So we would like to ask, Mr. Chair, respectfully, for a report on the disbursement and use of such fund. May request that it be submitted to the committee and that this representation be afforded a copy. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Secretary, can you provide those documents?
Certainly, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, we can provide actually the explanation on the utilization of the Motor Vehicle User Charge Fund in accordance with the guidelines that has been given to us by the Department of Budget and Management, Your Honor.
Thank you. Representative Gutierrez, please wrap up. 30 seconds.
Mr. Chair, seeing as I am lacking time, I will defer all other questions that I may have to the... I reserve the right to ask these questions in plenary. Again, I'd like to thank the good Honorable Secretary and the officials of the department for their time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Representative Gutierrez. Now, on the part of the majority, we'd like to recognize Representative Yervil Luistro, if he's around. Representative Luistro. In Zoom. Okay, no wonder. Please admit. Please unmute Representative Luistro. Please unmute. Can you... Can you show on screen, please? Okay, pending the technical issues, we will move on to the next one. Deputy Majority Leader Marlene Agabas. Okay, Representative Deputy Majority Leader Marlene Agabas. While she's not here, we'll move on to the next one. Representative Dale Corvera. Yeah. You're now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A pleasant morning to all of us in the plenary hall, Mr. Secretary and the DPWH family. Actually, I have only one concern today because my previous concerns were already expressed during the meeting of the parties with the Secretary a few days ago about the MAMCAS flood control project in Kitsarao, Agusan del Norte. And pasensya na po magtanong po ngayon dahil while I was an old horse in the local government, I am a spring chicken here in Congress. Bago po akong congressman. And my concern, Mr. Secretary, is about the Las Nieves Bridge in Agusan del Norte. And this concern was already expressed yesterday during the meeting of the Mindanao Affairs Committee. But I will express it again today because you are here with us and you are widely known to be receptive to the concerns of the congressmen. Mr. Secretary, this bridge will connect the municipality of Las Nieves to the national road, to Butuan City, to Agusan del Sur, on to Davao, and even Bukidnon. This was started in 2019 when I was the governor of Agusan del Norte. And I understand that the total cost of this bridge is 1.2 billion. But sadly, Mr. Secretary, in the 2022 budget, the allocation was only 10 million pesos. And in the NEP for 2023, nakita ko po, ang proposal is 50 million pesos. At the rate of 50 million pesos a year, ilang taon po natin matapos ang bridge na ito. So, Mr. Speaker, I express it today because I want to get your commitment kung maaari po matutukan ito ng DPWH na matapos-tapos sa madaling panahon ang bridge na ito. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, would you like to respond?
Well, yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chair.
one of the specific instructions of the President to me is actually to complete all started bridges. And he wants all these bridges to be completed at the earliest possible time, because we recognize actually the importance of the bridges that will cross major rivers actually to provide efficient transport network. I can assure the good congressman that we will attend to the requirements, and if that was for a bridge that will cost you more than ₱1 billion, and you are measly appropriating 15 million a year, that will go to more than 20 years, and I'm not even sure if I would be able to attend to it. In the meantime, Mr. Chairman, I understand that in 2023 there's going to be a
50.
Substantial amount.
50 million po ang proposal under NEP 2023. 50. At the rate of 50 million a year, ilang taon pa natin matapos po ito.
We will review actually the allocations.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Yes. We'll just go back to Deputy Majority Leader Marlene Agabas, who was online but was out of the plenary a while ago. Now she's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, Representative Agabas, can you move back further in 6 inches para maintindihan?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My dear colleagues to the Dpwh family. Naimbag nga, although tayo amin na po, nga tilabas na. Sir, I agree with the statement of one of our dear congressmen this morning nung sinabi po niya na if there is one department that is closest to the hearts of us congressmen, it is the Department of Public Works and Highways. You are our partner in all the national infrastructure programs in our districts. And we know for a fact these projects usually redound to the benefit of our constituents. And with that, maraming salamat po sa DPWH sa lahat po ng mga tulong sa aming distrito. Madam Chairman, in my previous discussion with the Secretary and seated here listening to him, I can feel in his heart the sincerity. I can feel the desire and the good intention to deliver good quality infrastructure programs in our country. And I wish you good luck with that, sir. Thank you very much. Sana po tulungan kayo, gabayan po kayo ng Diyos sa lahat po ng magandang intensyon nyo para sa ating bayan. I will not be propounding so much questions this morning. I just would like to manifest my support to the budget of DPWH, and I do hope that your capital outlay budget will at least be increased in a way at least equal, better if it will surpass the 2022 budget. And I wish you that, sir. As to my parochial concerns, I have previously discussed it in previous meetings with our Secretary, and I know that you know pretty well the situation of our district, the urgency of its needs, be it roads, bridges, or flood control. And I look forward, sir, of meeting you in your office to discuss more about the concerns of our district. So, yun lang po. So, sa inyo pong lahat, maraming salamat po sa oras. Agyaman ak apo, ti ayat kantulong nyo, ti distrito mi. Dadaan kami apo, kadagiti tulong kan ayat yu kada kami. So, salamat na imbag nga aldaw tayo amin ngawan apo tilabas.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I take na po, Congresswoman.
Okay. Thank you. Now, we move on to the minority. Representative Bonifacio Busita.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Sa ating lahat, magandang umaga po. Mr. Chair, base po sa background, experience, and expertise ng bagong talagang Secretary po ng DPWH, Honorable Secretary Manuel Bunuan, ako po ay kumpiyansa na mas mabilis at mas maganda na may papatupad ang ating mga proyekto sa mga susunod na taon. Hindi po ako magtatanong about DPWH's budget for 2023 dahil naniniwala po ako na sila ay higit na nakakalam kung ano ang dapat na priority projects and the respective funds. Mr. Chair, as road safety advocate and representative of the motorists, together with my partner, Congressman Attorney Rolls Gutierrez, ang itatanong ko po sa buting Secretary ng DPWH is about safety and construction. Kapareho po ng ilang mga personnel ng DPWH, ako po ay registered civil engineer na pumasa po sa Civil Engineers Licensure Board Examination in May 1993. Personal experience, Mr. Chair. Na-aksidente po ako sa Ragay, Andaya Highway. At napag-alaman ko po na marami na ang na-aksidente dito at namatay. Napag-alaman ko rin, Mr. Chair, na yung dahilan ng aksidente ko at ng iba pang mga nauna sa akin ay may tuturing na maling construction para doon sa nasabing portion. And in less than 1 week, ito po ay nireconstruct, inayos ng DPWH concern doon sa naturang area. Mr. Chair, nalaman ko rin po na mayroong 4 sa isang pamilya na namatay sa kaparehong lugar sapagkat yung pong ongoing construction nila, kalsada particular, putol ito pero walang early warning device. Ako po'y naniniwala na kung ito ay nabibigyan ng proper attention, dapat sana ay hindi namatay yung 4 sa nasabing pamilya. Another observation, Mr. Chair, may isa pong rider na namatay. Nag-overshoot siya. Yung kanyang motorsiklo ay bumangga doon sa precast concrete na nandoon sa gilid ng kalsada na mayroong itong dowel bars. At dahil dito, more or less 10 bars ang pumasok sa katawan nung namatay na rider. May mga road widening projects po tayo. Maganda at tapos na. Pero nakakapagtaka, bakit may mga poste pa na nandirito? Na may mga na-aksidente na at may mga namatay na rin, Mr. Chair. May mga projects pa rin po tayong nakikita na walang proper early warning device at patuloy po itong nangyayari. May mga uncovered, excavated portions along the roads na parang kung titingnan natin ay napakasimple naman para remedyohan ang mga ito. Marami na po, Mr. Chair, ang mga na-aksidente at namatay. Gusto ko lamang pong ipaalam sa ating lahat na mayroon po tayong pananagutan at may mga responsibilidad. Ito po ay binabanggit ko para iparating sa buting Secretary itong ating mga observations. Mr. Chair, bilang isang advocate at isang anak mahirap, nais ko iparating sa ating lahat na sa isang pamilya, kapag namatay ang tatay o nanay, parang namatay na rin ang buhay at kinabukasan ng kanilang mga anak. Mr. Chair, libo-libong Pilipino ang namamatay taon-taon dahil po sa road crashes. At isang parte po sa road safety ay itong tinatawag na engineering, na kung saan ito po ay pangunahin na dapat sanang binibigyan po ng DPWH. Kaugnay po nito, Mr. Chair.
Your time is up. Please wrap up.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ang tanong ko lamang po ay ganito, Mr. Chair. Doon po ba sa aksidente na namatay ang motorista, ano po ba ang ginagawang aksyon ng ating Dpwh authority? Yun lamang po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Your Honor. I can assure the good congressman na ito po ay isa sa mga pangunahing tinitingnan na namin ngayon. Ito yung na-discuss natin ng kanina, that we are undertaking po yung safety audit sa lahat ng ating mga pangunahing lansangan para malaman po natin kung nasaan yung mga black spots. We are giving this as a priority program now of the department po. You know, that I can assure you that under my watch, road safety is one area that we will look into very seriously. Hindi ba nyo po alam siguro, ako yung nanggaling po sa private sector, and I had been managing the expressways. And it has always been our guidelines that road safety comes first, among other things. I can assure the good congressman that this will be attended. The road safety will be will be a priority in our program, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
If I may, one last question lang po, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Okay, one last question before I declare the break for lunch.
Yes po, thank you, Mr. Chair. Alam po natin, Mr. Chair, na marami pong development projects na kailangan sa Metro Manila. Mr. Chair, pwede po bang malaman sa ating butihing Secretary ng Dpwh, Honorable Secretary Manuel Bunuan, kasama po ba sa binabalak niyong plano itong development or improvement of roads within Metro Manila to include asphalt overlaying, and may balak po ba kayo na magbigay ng exclusive motorcycle lanes para sa mga kapatid nating motorcycle riders? Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, we are planning to undertake a massive rehabilitation program in Metro Manila, especially in the major thoroughfares, actually, Your Honor. And this will include yung sabi nga po ninyo, mga preventive maintenance, overlay, asphalt overlay, and certainly yung provision of yung specific lanes for motorcycles and riders. I think we'll be able to incorporate this. We will discuss this with the Metropolitan Development Authority, Your Honor, because they're in charge in the traffic management for Metro Manila. But certainly we can, as far as the requirement is concerned, Mr. Congressman, we'll coordinate this with Metro Manila, and we will provide as may be needed in accordance with our agreement with them, Your Honor.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair, sa karagdagang minuto na binigay niyo po. Salamat po. God bless us all.
Thank you very much. With that, session will be suspended until 1:30 in the afternoon to give way to the lunch break. Thank you.